Oh, now we want to talk about a few other little aspects of singing and possible singing and things we can do and things that singers have done very successfully. One of them is very simply an accent method and use accents to achieve a type of appoggio technique, a leaning technique. And if I do, let's say I do la, by stopping that L, la, you realize it leans my breath over from my lower back where I breathed into up against, in this case, up against my lower chest or my sternum. So I go, la. It's easy to do that in the epigastrium or the solar plexus. La. The main thing is to understand that the movement of the breath against the sternum or against the diaphragm can easily become a vocal technique and a way to sing just about anything and everything. So I'm going to go, la, la, la. Once I've established that, I just sing ah there. Ah, la, 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 or anything that I want to sing. La, 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 la. See? So I don't have to do these things like the la performance. Some people do them in performance. You know, you got the song L'alba separa dalla luce l'ombra. Some people begin it like that. L'alba separa dalla luce l'ombra. And then this, and that's a movement of the breath forward against the diaphragm, and you can do it almost for any vowel that will let you stop your breath with, any consonant that lets you stop the breath with the consonant. Ba, la, ba. You go through the alphabet. Cha, da, ja. One of the vocalists is Joe and George and the jungles of Georgia. Now, once I do these sort of fun things, then I just sing ah there. Now to continue this, I do another one. I do something as simple as putting an H in front of things. So I go, la, la, ha, ha, la, la, ha, 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 ha. Some singers do that on every note. Ha, 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 ha. If you do it, it's not exactly legato, is it? It's a very busy, somewhat declamatory vocal style. Doesn't hurt the voice at all, fun enough, because all the activity and all the breath pressure and all those things happen against the diaphragm. So if I breathe behind me, and go, la, ha. So the la becomes a locator, a finder. And I locate exactly where that point of leaning is. They even had a name for it, ponte d'appoggio, the old Italian books. The point of leaning, where am I leaning my breath? See? La, la. Now I do ha, ha, exactly on the same spot. Ha, 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 la, la. If I have words, I can use words and the consonants that start words as one of my attack points. When I was a little boy, my mama always told me, way, haul away, oh, haul away, Joe, that if I never kissed the gals, my lips would grow all moldy. Way, haul away, oh, haul away, Joe. You get the idea. You can use consonants and even vowels if you know where to put them, where to poke them, where they belong. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. All of those will fit right in that spot. The famous locator is la, la. I learned that from Lauritz Melchior, as a matter of fact, when I entered the Heldentiner contest. and did not win because he said, "You're not a tenor, you're a lyric tenor." So I didn't have a chance. But then he taught me some stuff. Various, I studied with him for about 6 months then afterwards. Once I find the spot, halla, 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 all of them. Ha, halla, halla, holla, hulla, hilli, halla. Now once it's there, I can progress to nothing but an H. Ha, 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 hoo, ha, 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 hi, right? Siegfried starts like that in the Anvil song. All right, the next step in this, we did halla and we did H. Ha, now we go to one of the really famous, very overused and abused techniques for achieving this attachment to the diaphragm. Some people call it sobbing. Is it really a sob, or is it simply a profound style of falsetto attachment? You can call it sobbing. Sobbing makes sense. So I start with the falsetto, ooh, and then I attach the falsetto to the diaphragm. So I go, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, and you can hear that moment of attachment. It sounds like la, ha, ha, ha. So if I do it, the quick one, ha, 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 ha. I'm attached right there on the diaphragm. So I can sob. The most famous sobber in history was Beniamino Gigli, who had one of the greatest voices that anyone ever had. And he used to sob a lot. He abused it, really. People criticized him for it. My old teacher, Olga Reese, was best friends with him, and she said she couldn't go to the opera anymore to hear him. Said the sobbing drove her crazy. But she went to his concerts, where he didn't sob as much, and then they were just fantastic. His voice was fantastic. So that's 3 attachment exercises to the diaphragm right there. Halla, 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 ha, 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 right? I'm left with ah. Got it? Now, if I sing music like that, I have to use it somewhat reasonably, sparingly. On the other end, those of you who are interested in this style attack, listen to Giovanni Martinelli sing Torna Sorrento. And listen to the way he sings those lines. Listen to the way people, and as you're listening to singers, try to find out who you think is using these and not using them. Gigli certainly uses them like mad, uses them in lyric music. Cielo, mar, can use it all over the place. I can use, anytime I could connect to the diaphragm, I'm doing better than most people. As most people are holding the voice off to here and going yang, 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 and giddy, 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 and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with singing whatsoever. Those were all invented by people who never were singers, or who tried to sing and failed and didn't make it. That's why they didn't make it, because they had a lousy technique to start with. But anyway, if you do this, la, 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 then any consonant that I say, even lightly, can become an attachment method for the breath to the diaphragm. So if I'm singing something, let's say, what's a good example? I don't know, dies Bildnis ist verzauberschön, wie noch kein Auge je gesehen. So I can do little consonants and still do the same thing. At one point, they called this Martellato or Martellati technique. You go, the real Martellati is done by breathing in and going Like let's say we do the Muller maneuver. Now I've got my rib cage is now opening up as if I'm going to do staccato. Now my ribs are open and they're full of this restrained technique where I'm restraining my breath and holding it really as if I'm in an inward inhaling posture all the time, or like I'm going to do staccato. Staccato is not that's a loud stroke. So if I put my breath, I'm going to go, or Helga Rosfinger taught me what he called the chimpanzee, and you go, but it makes you pull in the breath down and makes you hold it when you want to make a sound. Now, if I want to make a sound, I can either continue singing on the staccato point, la 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 la, right? Or I can hold everything with my breathing as if I'm staccatoing. In other words, a constant state of inhalation process maintained. Then I can say outward. So I go, la. Some of these sort of combine and overlap. If I go, la, la, la. So the true leaning style technique, appoggio, is not done with this restraining of the breath. It breathes in and then it goes, how are you today? I'm fine. Hello, how are you? The other one is to inhale and restrain like mad and hold your breath as if you're in a staccato all the time and don't let the breath collapse. As a matter of fact, if I stop the sound right in the middle of it, my breath cuts off everything. If I go, hello, I'm standing there with my breath, holding my breath like mad, inward like this. Ah, ah. You see where I am? The other one, hello, hello. See? So if I can, it's a little bit hard to explain, a little bit hard to, well, it's not so hard to do if you have somebody there sort of watching you until you get the hang of it. But the idea is to go, to do that I need to breathe really, a great big breath, way down my lower back, and then once the breath, it's full of air, and I'm going to restrain all that air, then I'm going to go, ah, 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 ah. See? I can use then the Martellati to enunciate each note if I want to. So, but I have to keep the breath in like mad, like that. Instead of singing, I go, Carmen. Conductors love that. Most conductors are trained on the pianoforte, and they simply hear notes, da, 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 right? So if you sing like that very often, they like it very much. Those that are trained on string instruments, like the cello, or the violin mostly, then they like it better if you don't enunciate those notes so separately, but you get a wonderful, smooth, continuous sound. Now let's go back to those accents. Halla, halla, ha, ha, ha. See? So I guess it depends a lot on what you're singing. It's not all dramatic music, though. Sometimes I do something, lyric. I do, quanto quello mi sono a cantare di torno di mi vedo. That's not a heavy part. I'm going, I'm enunciating all of those notes on my diaphragm. La, ha, ha, quanto quello, If I'm in a real true legato technique, I go, so there are all these different vocal styles. And those of you who listen to records of great singers, try to hear in the great singers what you think that they are doing. U.C. Birling was the great, of course, Mr. Legato, fantastic, incredible legato, beautiful lyric tenor. And there's a recording he made of Till Havs, a Swedish song, with orchestra, and he just pounds every single note. Beautifully, I might say. It's wonderful. Till Havs, Till Havs. And I mean, he really bangs them. It's true. He can do anything with his voice. Some singers sing that way all the time. Some singers have breath stops that they use that you can't believe, like Francesco Tamagno. Breath stop method right on the tip of his nose. That's the one Alfredo Kraus did. You can do these breath stops out in midair. I can stop it on the tip of my finger. What if I look across the room and pick out a doorknob? It's funny, isn't it? Weird. I look up in the big theater in the third balcony, and there's somebody sitting up there. A conductor, a stage director, could be anybody. Could be your wife, could be anyone. And you want to stop your breath up there in the third balcony. Is such a thing possible? Well, no, but we can imagine, can't we? So I put my voice in the third balcony and I go, do some Pavarotti held the paper and it's like the handkerchief in his hand like that. He said if it moves, pa. If he moves, he means he wasn't singing well. So he stopped it. Alfredo Kraus did that one. Aureliano Pezzolini did this one. So you can stop your breath all over the place. It's a great method. Is this a breath stop method? It certainly stops, but it's a jam method. You jam the breath. That's something about Lily Lehman. Lily Lehman called it the breath. Well, it's hard to say in English. She called it the breath stop when she translated in English. But in German, she was using the word stauen, which is to jam something up. A traffic jam is a Verkehrsverstauung. So this word stauen means to jam the breath against something so it stops and doesn't move. A dam in a river is a Staudamm because it stops the flow of the river. So the way she thought about it was you stop the breath here. Allah, Allah. See? So we talk about breath, breathing and breathing and breathing. And today I just want to touch on a few of these possibilities. We've done breath stops before. We said they shouldn't be strange to people now. And I certainly do them. Remember this one? Pa. On the lips. La la. See? You absolutely can stop the lip. You can stop the breath just about anywhere if you have an imagination. So, which one are you doing? I remember Krista Ludwig used to stop it between her shoulder blades in the back. She'd sing like that. Work like a drum. You can stop your breath any place you want to, and whichever one is comfortable, and whichever one sort of makes the effect you want to make. Or you can not use one. You can use a leaning technique instead, where I lean my breath here. Allah. You can call that a breath stop if you want. It certainly stops. But I stop it by leaning forward like that. Ah, ah, ah. See? Ah, ah, Allah. So that's something to think about. We'll see what, we have Paggio, and we have really where you sustain where there's no change of mission whatsoever. You make a smooth emission and you go as much as you can. And these are the ones that are a little bit hard to talk about, a little bit hard to describe, but these are the performance techniques that we use, where we have to get an idea of how to sustain contact with the diaphragm. You notice there's no breath coming out. If I do any of these, even ha, I go ha, 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 ha. Still doesn't move the paper. There's still no leak. Nothing comes out but sound. See? Allah, 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 Allah. Ha, 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 ha. There is no leaking air, period, in any of these techniques. Even if I go, try to loosen my jaw, go, still a little slight quivering in the paper, but no real air is blowing out. So we sort of have a technique for everything. You want to loosen your throat and loosen the back of your tongue. See, I'm saying the ah vowel inside. But it's important to know that when I do open, there's no breath leak. All right, so we'll stop there. By the way, the upshot of all this is we're going to go and not have to do any of that stuff, and never in performance. Well, if you have to cheat once in a while, you might throw in a sob or something, or you might do a little at the beginning of a phrase. But it's better if you practice this enough that you know what a leaning method is, or a breath stop method is, and you really don't have to do anything once you're performing. You know, I can go in the dressing room, and now I know I've done enough of them in my lifetime that I'm familiar with them. So I go okay.